Yes, testing can be beneficial, but I think it's also important that we acknowledge that there's lots of factors. We also get to look at your stress level. We also get to look at your overall inflammation. We get to look at what are the symptoms for you specifically in your body, and not see you as just a quantifiable test. And stress being the big one. Not just what is the stress level in your body, but how are you handling the stress? Because under high stress, women end up with what's called vagus nerve dysfunction. The stomach stops secreting acid or digestive enzymes. And so now we are not able to properly digest the proteins. The gut barrier integrity gets compromised. Often constipation shows up because of the stress itself. And so some little fun things to do for vagus nerve is singing like an opera singer actually stimulates the vagus nerve. So next time you're in the shower or driving, just pretend you're like the most famous opera singer. It is one of the ways to actually stimulate vagus nerve. And there's a lot of research, all different ways that I'm hearing different experts now talk about vagus nerve health, but specifically in the leaky gut conversation and activating the stomach acid production, digestive enzymes, and actually going in and addressing foundational leaky gut, we want to stimulate that vagus nerve. So singing like an opera singer. The other one is gargling. So if you gargle with digestive bitters until there's a tear in your eye, once you've gargled until the tear shows up, that shows that the vagus nerve has actually been stimulated. And it means that the brain pathway above the vagus nerve has actually been lit up. And they say that it takes at least a minute. So gargle with your bitters, and obviously breath work. One of the reasons, even with the call that we, was the earlier part of this call, that was an intense conversation, right? We get to go back to our breath. We get to go back to feeling into our bodies and allowing ourselves to feel safe. So we want to eat lots of high fiber foods. You hear me talk about the role of fruits, vegetables, and berries, especially if they're organic. That's always going to go in and serve your gut. Okay, whether it's leaky gut or not, the more fiber, the better. One of the reasons why I advocate for everyone to add in the ground flax. Also, quality omegas are going to make a big difference to lubricate that gut lining. Your coconut oil, your nuts, your seeds, your sprouts, your MCT oil, your avocado oil, your olive oil, all of that is going to go in and really, I think of it as like a soothing coating on that gut lining. One thing that I found very interesting as I was kind of doing a deep dive into leaky gut is that a concussion can then show up as leaky gut. So somehow the brain chemistry of a concussion will then increase the chance of someone developing leaky gut, which I think is fascinating. So just to call out that we live in a day and age where our sympathetic nervous systems are on overload. How ironic that even just in the last call, the need to be constantly multitasking and the defensiveness that some might show up with if they're asked to focus on one thing, because we all have so many things that we're juggling. But can we allow some desensitization in our bodies because we're so accustomed to being overcharged, and address where's that overcharge coming from? And is it really the end of the world if I set some boundaries here and actually just go, it's just an hour? Like none of this is life or death here, right? Can I set some boundaries? And can I allow some space to get into my sympathetic nervous system to allow my body to feel safe? Because remember, in fight, flight, or freeze, also known as parasympathetic, the body goes into stress response. That's survival. Blood flow goes to the extremities. It's ready to fight. It's ready to run fast. Digestion shuts off. If you're running from a tiger, it does not matter that you just had a beautiful salad and an organic vegan hamburger, grass-fed from the Bahamas. It doesn't matter. Your body will stop digesting it because digestion is not a valuable thing in the context of I have to fight hard and run fast, okay? So the more that we can acknowledge how much time we're spending on our phone, how many ways we're multitasking, okay, each time you pivot topics, it takes the brain 20 minutes to refocus. So we think that we're so proud of ourselves for being productive and doing all these things all at once. But I ask you the question, is it actually that you're doing all these things at all once and nothing's really being done well? versus just like honing in on, I'm going to focus on this one thing. And then I'm going to close that and I'm going to move to the next thing. I'm going to focus on that. So diaphragmatic breathing, right? Allowing the slow inhalation, the hold, and allowing your exhalation to be longer than the inhalation. That alone relaxes into parasympathetic. The body goes, oh, I'm safe. I talk about Shinrin Yoku, forest bathing, walking in the forest, leaving your phone behind, barefoot walking. Can you get out in the grass and take your socks and shoes off and actually feel the earth on your feet so that we can conserve our energy and actually slow down the heart rate, increase intestinal activity, actually relax those sphincters in the gastrointestinal tract. Sometimes also stopping the obsession around what to eat and what not to eat. Like one of the reasons you don't ever hear me talk about calorie counting and big into food planning, and I think it can get kind of obsessive. But can we find a lifestyle for stress management and a lifestyle of this is how I eat and this is what I eat that really serves me? So going specifically into some supplements that can be really lovely for gut health and leaky gut specifically, quercetin is one. That it's in a high quantity if you happen to like to eat capers. Capers are a great source of quercetin, but you can also get it in supplemental form. Marshmallow root is another one. It protects and soothes the gut lining. L-glutamine, aloe vera. Aloe vera is known to be very soothing to the gut. Licorice root. I already mentioned your quality omegas like coconut oil. Slippery elm. Slippery elm, you'll see it in lozenges and throat lozenges. It's coating. I have some women that will make like a slippery elm vaginal lubrication. It's like super gelatinous and slippery. It's very soothing to the gut lining. Various mushrooms can be very helpful, and it's counterintuitive. So some people say, oh no, I was told I can't have mushrooms because they're yeast. But many mushrooms are actually medicinal, and many of the adaptogens come from the mushroom family. And so I brought out Gut Connect 365. This is one of my favorites. It was designed by Dr. Vincent Pedre. He's a functional medicine doc out of New York that specializes in gut health. And this is specifically for leaky gut. And it's kind of like one place where it's L-glutamine, quercetin, slippery elm, marshmallow root, licorice root, aloe vera, maitake mushrooms, zinc oronate. It's like one stop shop. And what I'll do is it has this scooper. My favorite is the vanilla cinnamon flavor. So you've got this scoop. I generally will do like 1/8 of a scoop and I just add it into my water. It tastes really yummy. I'll add it into my adaptogen elixir. I do find it's quite powerful. For some women, they might have detox symptoms. And if I stop using it for a while and I restart, I definitely feel it's potent. And so start with a small amount. I've worked with women who have pretty like almost debilitating ulcerative colitis, that this has made a huge difference with their gut well-being. And kids can have it, adults can have it. I give it to my children. Chia seeds is another one. To add chia seeds into your water is another source of omegas. MCT oil, I already mentioned. And then if you end up doing a GI map and you do a deep dive specifically with Katie, she's going to be able to give you some personalized approach. But as some just examples, if there's yeast or parasite overgrowth, and remember, if there's leaky gut, now they're able to sneak through more easily because there's more holes in that semi-permeable membrane. So berberine is one that helps kill the bad bacteria. Oregano and clove oil is great for killing yeast. Wormwood and black walnut is great for killing off parasites. And I'm not giving any specific protocol. I encourage you to do some homework. Come to your one-on-one time and really ask Katie, especially if you do a GI map and you want to play around with any of these. Making sure that you're filtering your water well. And once again, the ewg.org, looking at your specific zip code and finding what contaminants are high in the zip code that you live. Obviously cleansing the mind, being aware of negativity that's coming in and switching it over to gratitude. There's the acronym CARE, C-A-R-E. So C stands for cleanse, take away the inflammatory foods. If there's parasites, get rid of them, get rid of your genetically modified foods. One article that I read says that US farmers are growing with 6 times more parasites today than historically because the genetically modified food has been so genetically modified, they now have to use more pesticides to combat the way that the plants are evolving from the genetic modification. It's so fascinating. Obviously, for many of you, I recommend taking out gluten and dairy and caffeine. For some, for adding in more probiotic rich foods like your sauerkraut, your kefir, your kombucha, your dairy-free yogurts, all of that is going to add to the microbiome. And if you've had a GI map, it's good to see, well, maybe there's one bacteria that's actually in a space of overgrowth. And so occasionally it's a scenario where adding more probiotic rich foods might not actually be what you need. If you're not going to do a GI map test, I think starting with more probiotic rich foods is always good. And prebiotics almost trump probiotics. So prebiotics go in and help the good bacteria do a better job at what they're supposed to be doing. So your garlic, your onion, your Jerusalem artichoke, a lot of the gas producing foods, your beans, okay? So C is cleanse, A is activate. So reactivating the digestive system with the right nutrients, right? Reducing your inflammation, eating a diet rich in all the colors, adding in your greens, addressing the imbalances between the good and bad bacteria with lots of prebiotic rich foods. And for some, trying digestive enzymes before a meal. So before a meal, drink a tall glass of water. Try to hydrate less during the meal, but instead before, and try adding digestive enzymes or trying the HCl challenge for those that want to look into that. Other ways to activate would be omegas, aloe, ginger, turmeric. So CARE, C-A-R is restore. So restoring the gut microbiome. And that's once again, deep into the probiotic and prebiotic conversation. Adding supplemental if you're not vegan. Colostrum is great to go in and help restore that gut lining. A wide variety of vegetables that are fiber rich, every color, every day. Okay, from a functional medicine perspective, what they're saying is at least 9 different vegetables each day. And most Western societies are pretty much void of fiber. Dr. Vincent Pedre says we need a minimum of 20 grams or more a day of fiber. And that's going to help heal the gut. It's going to help restore digestion, elimination. There's so much there that is going to help in the fiber conversation. And then with CARE, E stands for enhance. So use nutrients we know heal healthy lining of the gut, like L-glutamine, licorice, aloe, quercetin. And so Gut Connect 365 for me is just the most simple way, and it tastes yummy. It's not cheap. I think a bottle like this costs around $65, but it's potent. And so if you try it for 3 months and just take note of your aches and pains, your brain fog, your mood, your sleep, your digestion, and just track and see what changes. Any rashes, any stuff that's showing up for you or your children, I think it's worth taking a peek at. To be in the place of self-awareness, like Whitney talks about the triggering of being around a boss that's like so in their domineering masculine. And in the call that we just had, to feel Katie's response and her protectiveness and defensiveness, for me to go, okay, how do I hold space for this? And of course, my heart rate goes up a little bit. I felt flushing in my face. I felt my palms sweat. And it's not about me here. I get to be in my power and I get to be in my space, knowing that I'm coming from a place of love, knowing that in this container, I'm holding specific energy for each of you as individuals because I know you intimately, but to also hold the container for someone who's feeling triggered and not allow it to throw me off, right? To find our eye in the storm. As a midwife holding space for women in labor, or if you think like if you're out in the ocean and you're ducking under the big waves, how do we find that pause between the waves where our head comes above water and we get to breathe? How do we create patterns and self-awareness and to quickly drop in when we're in those moments of, there's a storm and I still am in my power and I'm still in my grounded. Y'all are awesome. Thank you so much for today. It was powerful, it was important, and it was churning. So thank you for showing up. Ciao, ciao.